If you have ever lost a crop to rot during the rains or watched your seedlings wilt under a scorching afternoon sun, then you already understand the core challenge of seasonal gardening. The truth is, your garden does not need the same care in July that it needs in December. Water availability, soil behavior, pest pressure, and plant physiology all shift with the seasons, and your approach must shift with them. This guide breaks down exactly what to do in both the rainy and dry seasons, so your living soil garden stays productive, healthy, and thriving no matter what the sky is doing. Understanding the core difference between seasons. The fundamental difference between rainy and dry season gardening comes down to one thing: water management. In the rainy season, water is the threat. In the dry season, water is the treasure. Research published in agricultural soil science literature consistently shows that both waterlogging and drought stress trigger physiological damage in plants, including root oxygen deprivation in wet conditions and stomatal closure under heat and drought. Your job as a gardener is to buffer your plants against both extremes. Everything else, including fertilization, pruning, mulching, and pest control, flows from that central principle. Rainy season gardening. Managing excess moisture. One of the most effective structural decisions you can make before the rains arrive is switching to raised beds or elevated planters. When soil becomes saturated, the air pockets that roots depend on for oxygen get displaced by water, leading to root rot and plant death. Raised beds keep the root zone elevated above standing water, improving drainage and maintaining the aerobic conditions that soil microbes and roots need to function. This is especially important for crops like tomatoes, peppers, and root vegetables, which are highly sensitive to waterlogging. Tall, leafy plants also become structurally vulnerable in heavy rainfall seasons. The weight of rain-soaked foliage combined with wind can snap stems or uproot entire plants. Staking tomatoes, trellising cucumbers, and caging peppers before the rainy season begins is not optional, but essential. Support structures redistribute the mechanical load on the stem and protect the plant's vascular system from physical damage. Soil erosion is another silent threat during heavy rains. Bare soil loses its structure rapidly when hit by rain droplets, and valuable topsoil washes away along with nutrients. A light application of organic mulch, such as dry leaves or straw, protects the soil surface without creating anaerobic fungus-prone conditions. The key word here is light. In wet conditions, thick mulch layers trap moisture against the stem and invite fungal pathogens, so keep mulch a few centimeters away from plant bases. One of the most counterintuitive rainy season adjustments involves fertilization. Most gardeners assume that rain equals growth, so they feed more, but actually, the opposite is true. Heavy rainfall causes nutrient leaching, where soluble nutrients like nitrogen are washed below the root zone before plants can absorb them. For this reason, agronomists consistently recommend switching to slow-release granular fertilizers during the rainy season. These release nutrients gradually, reducing the loss caused by heavy rainfall and making feeding more efficient and cost-effective. Fungal disease pressure peaks during the rainy season because high humidity and moisture on leaf surfaces create ideal conditions for pathogens like powdery mildew, downy mildew, and botrytis. Removing lower leaves to increase airflow through the canopy is a well-documented cultural practice for reducing fungal infection. Good airflow accelerates the drying of leaf surfaces after rainfall, which directly reduces disease incidence. Pruning dead or damaged branches before the season begins removes potential entry points for pathogens. Slugs, snails, and caterpillars also surge during wet periods, so monitoring for them, particularly in the early morning, keeps pest damage manageable before populations establish. Harvesting during the rainy season requires attention and urgency. Mature produce left on the plant in high humidity conditions deteriorates fast. Leafy greens, soft fruits, and legumes should be harvested as soon as they reach maturity to prevent rot, mold, and pest damage. When rainfall stops, your most powerful tool is mulch, and it needs to be applied generously. Research from the University of California Cooperative Extension and similar agricultural bodies shows that a 3 to 4 inch layer of organic mulch, such as grass clippings, wood chips, or dried leaves, can reduce soil moisture evaporation by up to 50%. That figure is significant. Mulch also moderates soil temperature, preventing the extreme heat fluctuations that damage root systems and expose soil. Apply it around the base of plants but keep it away from direct stem contact to prevent moisture-related collar rot. Watering timing becomes critical in the dry season. Irrigation applied during midday loses a substantial portion to evaporation before it reaches the root zone. Watering between 4 a.m. and 9 a.m. gives the soil time to absorb moisture before temperatures climb. Evening watering is acceptable in dry conditions, though it carries a slightly higher disease risk than morning watering in humid climates. Drip irrigation systems and soaker hoses are the most water-efficient delivery method available to home gardeners, delivering water directly to the root zone and reducing waste by comparison to overhead sprinklers. Soil organic matter is your long-term insurance against drought stress. Compost and well-aged manure increase the water-holding capacity of soil significantly. Sandy soils amended with compost behave more like loam, retaining moisture longer and reducing irrigation frequency. This is the principle behind living soil philosophy, building the soil's biology and structure so it functions as a resilient system rather than a passive growing medium. Plant selection in the dry season should lean toward drought-tolerant species. Herbs like rosemary, thyme, and sage have evolved to thrive in dry, well-drained conditions. Succulents and many indigenous edible plants also perform well with minimal irrigation. Shade netting over sensitive plants during peak afternoon sun reduces heat stress and water demand simultaneously. Weeds compete aggressively for limited soil moisture in dry conditions, so consistent weeding is not cosmetic maintenance, but a practical water conservation strategy. Your garden deserves seasonal intelligence. Seasonal awareness transforms average gardeners into skilled ones. When you align your practices with what the season demands rather than fighting against it, your plants perform better, your inputs go further, and your harvest improves measurably. If this guide gave you something valuable, share it with a fellow gardener who needs it. And if you are not already part of the Living Soil Garden community, subscribe to the Living Soil Garden YouTube channel today. There is a whole community of soil-first gardeners growing better with every season, and there is always room for one more.